Hey, folks, Cantu here. We got some really great things here. This is some live Oasis, Be a Rock and Roll Star, kicking off for the great week of Thanksgiving. It's going to be a short business week, so I'm going to do a special presentation today about being thankful and all that. So there's a lot of things going on. Black Friday's coming up, as you know. We're running this promotion. You don't have to be a genius to get on page 1 of Google. We'll do it for free, right? Black Friday promotion, Metro Detroit from The Win, right? That's what you're watching. How would you like to get on the front page of Google? Absolutely free. You'll be ready for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, page 1 of Google, guaranteed. And just tell us what 3 keywords that you want to be found for, and we'll do the rest with some special social media that'll put you right on page 1 of Google, absolutely free. That's part 1. When you do this with us, there's a part 2, which is really cool. And I'm going to reveal that a little later down the road, probably the first week of December. You can always give us a call at 248-277-6141 and just ask for hometown search when you call me. And I'm Ted Cantu. We're just looking for 3 keywords and what your business is all about. We'll put you right there on page 1 of Google. Now, today, I just want to say there's another gift. If you got a website, you got a business, or even if you work out of your home, you got a business, you have a hard time getting on Google Maps, we got a solution for you. Pretty cool stuff. You might give me a call at 248-277-6141. And I believe there's some site maps there for you too, in addition to the Google Maps. So that's really, really great. Anyway, Thanksgiving. What does it mean to you to stay in a state of grace, of thanks and acceptance? No matter where you are in this journey, always remember to be thankful for what you have. You may not have $1 million in cash in the bank. You may not have the kind of car you want to drive. But if you put your thought into the right mindset and believe in it, that all things are possible, and all things are possible through the universe in Christ, got to put him first, that you can have it and a whole lot more. So we'll be talking about that today. I'm going to keep this very concise, and I'm not going to get down to too many rabbit holes. I want to keep you on track. Get a notebook if you can. Start taking some notes with us, because we've got some really great information here for you. You're going to want to keep in step with us. We're talking about mindset, and what does it really entail? I gotta say some of the great things about it. My own personal experience. Since I started applying these principles, I am on day 35 right now, and I have found incredible change going on in my business life, in my family life, my social life. Things are really coming together, and what's really cool about it is I'm contacting businesses, but I'm also getting some really great numbers. And what I mean by that is I'm getting like 5 yeses out of 6 so far. I was interrupted yesterday in my customer acquisition, but those are my numbers right now. I'm getting 5 out of 6 responses that are positive. You try doing this with direct mail or, actually creating any sort of lead generation using paid ads, your numbers are going to be not very good. And I went through that on previous videos, but I just got to say that this personal magnetism that I'm able to pick up through applying these universal and metaphysical principles are life-changing, game-changing, really. Just amazing in every way. So this book right here, I'm going to share with you something. I got some concepts of metaphysics right here, if you can see that. Very plain looking book. The cover doesn't really grab anybody's attention. They probably could have done a much better job of that. And it's been sitting in my library for a couple of years maybe, and it just kind of resurfaced. I was moving some things around, and I was reorganizing my bookshelf, and this particular book popped up, and it's by Anthony Norvell. So it's metaphysics and the new dimensions of the mind, right here. Book has been around since 1967, so it's a long time. And Anthony Norvell was a world famous psychic investigator, known to thousands of people with his books and articles, and he did amazing discoveries in the realm of self-discovery. And he was also known as a celebrity. So he was a psychic investigator for 25 years, and he had a live event in Carnegie Hall. If you can imagine what that must have been like, 25 years. He'd go up on stage and he'd talk about his explorations and his discoveries from the ancient countries of Tibet, China, India, and Greece. Now, what's really cool about this is that there is a metaphysical miracle power within you, and it's talking about how to create miracles in your daily life. If you can imagine what that must be like. A lot of us are so pre-programmed in our subconscious by our parents, teachers, college professors, co-workers, friends, colleagues, that'll hold you down and tell you that you can't do anything. Can't do anything. That's what they do. You pay for it. College is probably one of the worst things you can do to yourself in that sense. And I actually had enough strength to walk away from all of it and just say, forget it. I'm going to go and do my own thing. And since I've cut off a lot of these negative programs that got into my subconscious, I cleaned it out in alpha state, reprogram my mind, repave the road, and created new loops for myself. If that sounds too far out for you, let me kind of bring it up to speed a little bit. There's somebody who's doing that now that's really taking a major spotlight, and that's Jim Quick. All right. So he's got this book called Unlimited. That taps into some of it, but I've taken it to deeper levels by going back to the spiritual laws, natural laws, and citing books that were banned 100 years ago, probably for good reason. You're under a trance right now, and you probably don't even realize it. Everything from programs, TV shows, radio, news, the mass media, the music you listen to, is creating this poisonous consciousness, and you're operating under low levels of frequency, jealousy, hate, spiteful behavior, animosity, lashing out, anger. I mean, it's unbelievable. These are low frequencies. And you actually release chemicals from the brain that could affect your aging, could affect your health, could affect your, could bring on psychosomatic diseases. And it's a bad way to go. But the same thing works the other way. If you start speaking positivity in life and great affirmations and really believe in it with whole heart, you also release the same, I shouldn't say same, you also release chemicals in your brain that go into your body and revitalize your organs and bring life, longevity, happiness, joy, and so on and so forth. So it's worth your time to develop what's called a PMA, which is a positive mental attitude. To coin the phrase from W Clement Stone, and I talk about him quite a bit. He's quite an author. He's really an amazing person to study. So we were talking about that today. Now I'm going to keep you on track. I'm not going to get you too, like I said, too derailed, but write these names down because they're extremely important. I think it's going to be really amazing what happens to your life when you start noticing different shifts going on in your brain. Importantly, these are real people that I'm citing. Okay, I like the power of intention. I'm a big fan of Wayne Dyer. I think he's great, but I noticed that some of his influences and some of the people that he cites are based on literary characters, Don Quixote, and he's got these guys that just they're based on books. I want to base these laws on actual people and experiences I don't want to go with fictional characters. I don't want to go with you know uh, figures and literature. I want real results. I want real people. I want the real stuff. And I had to go digging for it. And I'm not going to just pick up a fluffy feel-good book about affirmations and just hope for the best when you're not correcting the core problem, which is your brain is probably damaged in a lot of ways. You don't even realize it. When you find yourself in the same situations and the same types of people, the same horrible job situations, the same problems reoccur, and there's a reason for that. You co-create it and you allow it to happen. You may not accept that right now, but it is true. We co-create our own happiness. We co-create our own misery. We're part of it. We're part of that experience. How we internalize it and how we project and how we make that happen. So these are really, really important things. This software that you collect in your mind plays on a loop. So you got your conscious thoughts, things that you can see, things that you can pick up and see, right? You've got seeing is believing, that type of consciousness. But then whatever you experience gets collected and recorded into your subconscious, which will play it back to you. So let's say, for example, Thanksgiving's coming up. And this is the time for family arguments a lot of times. I avoid that. I avoid family parties for that reason. I avoid arguments and confrontations and just, finger pointing and just potentially miserable experiences around the holidays. I'm not a big fan of that. I am first generation college, and it brings up a lot of animosity and hatred in people. Like, you think you're better than us. You think you're better than everybody. I'm not into that stuff. So I just take a pass. I just disappear for a while. But the thing is, when you hear that kind of negative talk from other people, they're running on a loop. They're running on an actual narrow-minded assessment of who you are. They don't really know you. They don't know your heart. They don't know your intensity, your intentions. They don't know. They just project themselves on you of what they see in you, but it's not the truth. So don't internalize negative talk. Don't internalize negativity. Step over it. And this is what it's all about. So a lot of clearing in this book, a lot of clearing of negative consciousness. And when you start to reprogram your brain, you're going to realize that new situations pop up all the time. It's incredible. My numbers, my metrics are changing. Most people in business only look at the metrics for their websites, their hit counters, conversions, KPIs, right? But the other thing is that your personal metrics probably matter even more than that, because I'm getting most of my traffic now through conversations with real people in real time and getting them to understand and sign up with my programs. We're talking on a very soul to soul level. And that is much more important than living through the fourth screen, which is like what this does. You live through a screen, and this is like, that's how most people interact with each other now. A lot of your social skills and your ability gets lost in translation when you live through a screen. But when you deal with people one-on-one, those are different metrics. So just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna go through my notes right here and just telling you to stay grateful always. And you want to be in sync with your the cosmic mind, the universal mind, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. There's a right way and a wrong way. All right. So that's the really important thing. And I got to say, staying grateful, no matter what you got, is so important, because this subconscious mind, whatever you have recorded in your brain, it's gonna affect your life, positive or negative, however you use it, however you decide to use it. And if you don't do anything with it, I think the worst thing that could possibly happen is you're going to stay in the same place, that you're not going to grow and you're not going to move. And your problems are just going to perpetuate. Either it be, you might get rid of certain people, but the same type of personality types are going to fill their shoes and be right in front of your face again. That's the danger. That is really something you don't want. And Dan Kennedy on the marketing side always says, change your who. If you're not getting what you want out of business, if you're not getting what you want from your coworkers or bosses or however you're, put together financially, it could be business partners. You got to change your who, or otherwise you're going to have the exact same problems and exact same situations resurface with different faces. I don't know if you like doing that. Personally, for me, that is not an option. That is not something I really want to do. Okay. Call me a snob. That's fine. I get it all the time, but that's not something I'm going to partake in. So we've got an amazing exercise for you. This is cool stuff. Try to keep up and pay attention. This is so important. I'm going to reveal today something called the art of premonition. And there are 5 steps to manifest something big and powerful in your life. And step 1 is to picture in your mind what you want to achieve. Just picture it. Instead of saying, I wish I had $1 million. I wish I could, I wish I was financially free or I had money to invest. People can wish all the time they want, but if they don't take action steps, they don't take a step towards their goals, a physical action step, it just becomes a dream and it's all talk. What's it say in the Bible? Faith without works is dead. And I've said that in other recordings, but it's so true. So it's okay to think about it. And it's okay to, want something to happen. But that is the first step. And that's where a lot of people just stay. They just stay right there. But step 2, pay attention to this. This is so important. Step 2 is to make a blueprint of the thing that you want to achieve with all of the details included. A blueprint could be what's called a dream board or a vision board with pictures of stuff that you actually want. That's a very popular way to do it. People do that all the time. That's a good thing to do. Sometimes people just do that and they are able to manifest what they want because they're so clear with that blueprint. Okay, but that's step 2. Keep in mind there's 5 parts to this. Okay. Step 3, which is really, really important, is to sit down in silence. Ask your mind, what are the steps I need to take? Sometimes there's 7 steps you got to take. And I believe I was reading W Clement Stone again on success with a positive mental attitude. There are multiple steps that you have to take in order to manifest something. That's extremely important. And we'll break that down a little bit later. But right now, I just want you to know there are multiple steps. So what is it you need to do to make something happen? Do you have to make a phone call? Do you have to call some old colleagues? Do you have to do some research and some books to help you get what you want? Do you have to help somebody? Maybe sometimes we have to apologize to somebody in order to make something happen. We have to backstep a little bit and take a look at ourselves and take inventory of what is it that is missing in us in order to manifest something. Maybe it's a character change or a character flaw. We have to become more accepting and more tolerant and kinder. Maybe. Sometimes everyone's different and it changes from person to person and from case to case. But those are the things. So sit down in silence and ask your mind, what are the steps that you need to make this happen? Put some thought into it. Number 4 is visualize yourself doing these things that you're asking, and just look at your life like a movie. What would your life be like if you were doing the thing that you're wishing for, that you're asking for, the thing that you want to manifest the most? What does it look like if you look at a big screen? What does your daily activities look like? What is it like when you wake up in the morning and you sit down at your journal at your desk? And are you excited about the day? Are you anxious? Are you what's it like? I mean, did you reach your state of like, hey, I finally made it. I don't got to worry about this anymore. Is there a relief? What is the feeling? And take notice of what that would be like. What would that be like? And just visualize that. And I like to close my eyes and meditate and just visualize what it's going to be like to reach my state of my goal. Maybe it's I would even take it so far as to go out and eat in nice restaurants and buy something kind of expensive for yourself that you would normally buy, and say, this is what it would be like if I had my goal. This is how I would live. This is how I see myself. And through that exchange, you'll start to feel closer, taking one more step closer towards your goal. 5 is to sit back and let it happen, because demonstration, it's called, it always follows premonition, always follows it. So after you do your steps, it will happen. I have things materialize in a very short time because I believed in what I wanted so much to appear that for me there was no other way. I couldn't imagine life without it. I got many examples about that. Everything from physical healing to finding my soulmate to uh, getting accepted into different organizations and college, and even manifesting dream clients and money and travel. I've done a lot of traveling. Uh, Very cool stuff. So those are the 5 steps, right? So make sure you take note of that. And we're going to have more information about all that stuff. The other thing I can tell you about is, gosh, I don't know if we have time. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to give you a real example of what this looks like. So creating a mind spiritual creation, a mind spiritual connection. And for myself, I wrote about this in an article for my magazine that started during COVID, and I didn't. We never really do much more with the magazine after that. It turned into a different project, but for a while there's articles on there explaining different things about mind, body, and spirit. And I did an article about a true story about when I was healed with. I had a amazing, miraculous spiritual healing that took place on my left heel. I had a whole series of like plantars warts. There are lesions with like warts, like tumors, really, but the size of a golf ball. It's about this big around. And the thing was, it was so intense, the doctors wanted to cut it out. They were actually talking about removing part of my heel, and I didn't want that to happen, obviously, because who wants to be a cripple, right? Especially in Manhattan. I don't think that's I don't think that's going to be a very good experience. And I definitely didn't want to do that. And I prayed, what am I going to do? I remember walking on a beach. Now, this is funny. I walked on a beach by myself. I was over in Fairfield, and I was watching the sun go down because I wanted to see God. I wanted to see my connection with Mother Nature, the universe, our creator, however you want to phrase that. And I walked on that beach and I prayed and I talked to God directly. And I said, I do not believe that this is that you created us to suffer. That was your grand design. I don't buy into that. You created us for a higher purpose, and you created us for an incredible destiny. I just don't know what mine is yet. And I'm working in corporate America, and I was depressed, and I had horrible bosses and jobs, and I just didn't want to do it. I didn't like the life that I was living. So I prayed with the whole heart and wholeheartedly. What am I going to do? I got plantars warts. My family's not around me. I'm in Fairfield, Connecticut. I'm about 7 states over from my family, and I'm by myself. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I went home to my apartment. I lived on top of this Chinese restaurant, which is really a strange building. I was 3 stories up, and well, I'll tell you about that building down the road. We'll be talking about some of those experiences that I had there. But I was living in Black Rock, Fairfield, and Connecticut. So I went to bed, turned my lights off and went to sleep. And when I went to sleep, I ascended into this heavenly realm, what was all like a white, yellowish light. It was so bright. I remember there was like a yellowish tinge to it. And it's a really interesting thing because I heard this voice, and it was like an ocean and many, many waves. But there was a deep voice in there, and it said, "Show me your foot." And it kind of this echoey, ocean crashing wave. It was so deep, and which I believe was God. And I showed him my foot, and my foot was clean. There was nothing wrong with it. There's no scars on it, and tumors or anything. And I asked God, I said, when am I going to have this when I'm 50? Now, back then, it seemed like a long time. I was probably about 30, 31. This is a long time ago. And he didn't say anything. He just said, just follow me. Very short words, but very profound because you could feel it tremble in your whole body. This is a big voice. I could feel it. And because I saw the hand come down, he's pointing at my foot like this. Show me your foot. And I was showing it. It was clean. So I said, wow, follow you. I don't know what that means, but I'll do it. And I was sent back down to Earth. No other way to say it. I was dreaming. I had a miraculous vision. So I wake up, and I was surprised to see that it was still dark outside. I remember that because I was around tremendous light. I really thought it was daylight. So when I woke up, I thought, well, it's gonna be morning, and it wasn't. It was dark. It's pitch dark outside. And wow, I was someplace else. I traveled someplace else. That's amazing. So then, I gotta tell you this crazy story. I didn't know what that meant to follow. Didn't know what that meant. But I was in Manhattan one day, and I was walking towards Chelsea, going from Broadway to Chelsea, which is quite a hike from the train station. I believe I was going to work, and I was doing a lot of freelance work in the city. So I passed by this juice shop. I was across the street from it, and I was on a corner, and I could tell you that it was like there was people going into the juice shop, and they had these juicers that I've never seen before, then or since. There were these huge metal containers. They look like coffee makers. Well, they were pushing this lever, and this juice was coming out, and people were getting these big, gigantic, like Starbucks size cups of juice. And they're walking out, walking in one door, walking out the other. The guys that ran the place didn't look like typical Americans. They looked like they could have came from the Mideast. I mean, I didn't see anybody. They weren't kids like Starbucks has kids, running the show. This wasn't like that. They had aprons, and they looked like they came from some other place. And I couldn't help notice the menu was so strange. I've never seen a menu like this as long as I've lived since. The menu was really bizarre because it was kind of like written in broken English. Every juice recipe had an ailment attached to it. So let me give you an example. It might say carrot plus ginger equals inflammation. This is good for inflammation. Grapes, white grapes, and it might have been a little bit of cucumber, was good for insomnia, that sort of thing. The other one said beet plus carrot and ginger was good for I don't know, clean blood or energy. Okay, so these aren't like specialty drinks. These are just, it looked very crude, and I couldn't figure it out. And they had prices on them, and that was it. And I was really intrigued with that. So wow, is that really real? I mean, can that Is that a real formula? I mean, does that really work? And of course, if you think about when the world was made, there wasn't pharmacies and pills and big pharma. There was fruits and vegetables and raw vegetarian plants and herbs and things. So I was intrigued with that. And at the time, I had a lot of anxiety and I wanted to get off uh, a lot of processed foods and things. So I bought a juicer. That was my solution. And I was watching a late night show infomercial. We used to have those all the time back in the 90s. And I used to watch them when I couldn't sleep. And I came across Jay Cordich, who was the juice man. You remember Jay Cordich had the big white eyebrows and he'd sell this juice machine at night. And he was so convincing that this could really change your life. And I actually went out and bought one. And I remember that it came with a bread maker. And I actually was excited to have that. And I had it sent to my office. Now, at that point, I was working for another company in Stanford. And I remember the UPS guy came in and dropped it off at my office door. Now, by this point, I was still pretty sick and I didn't exactly know where this adventure was going to go. So I took the juicer and I actually opened it up. And I remember my coworkers were very condescending and they made fun of me. Not in a good way, like a scolding way. Like, oh, you think you're better than us? Oh, look, you're Mr. Health guy now, and that kind of stuff. It's really sad because it's been years since this all happened, and I can't even tell you who what their names were or what they look. I remember what they look like, but I can't remember their names or really anything memorable about these people, and that's really sad. The point is, it doesn't matter because when you follow your heart, you believe in yourself and you believe in where you're going. That's all that matters in your faith. Because the next part of the story is going to blow your mind. I started doing it, started using it. I noticed that my vitality was really amped up, and there was something going on there because when I went to the gym, I could get on a treadmill and I could run for forever. I mean, I was running on this treadmill. And I thought maybe I'll last 10 minutes. And I went on for a full half hour. And I realized at that point I could just keep on going. I was running on just raw vitality, universal strength. Something was going on. And I picked up the book about spontaneous healing. I believe it was Dr. Wheel. And he talked about what it was like to get healed on a cellular basis. That's interesting. Just clean out your cells and your blood, and then your body start to heal spontaneity. Spontaneity. Your cells are actually going to duplicate, and because there's trillions and trillions of cells inside your body, and I start flushing out all of the fungus, all of the processed junk, all the sugars, all of the wheat, the dairy. Oh my God, all this garbage, processed colors, food additives, and all this stuff started coming out of my body. Uh, Started getting about 5 o'clock in the morning, like it was clockwork. It was no problem, and my tumors were still there, so I didn't really. I thought, well, yeah, as long as you're functioning better, that should be good enough. So then, um, maybe it was about a span of 3 weeks. I was at the gym, and I told the story on another video, but I was in the steam room, and we were elbow to elbow with guys, just in the sweet steam room, all sweating together and trying not to look at each other and just doing our business. And I happened to be sitting cross-legged, like this. I was sitting there, and I looked at my heel because I don't want to look at this guy or that guy. I just want to kind of focus on myself and have my head down. And I noticed that my heel was healing. There was a white ring of skin around it, and it's itchy. I had a lesion on my thumb too, on my left thumb, and that was, there's nothing there today. It's all gone. There's no scar, no nothing. But that was going around too, and I had like a little white ring of skin around there, and that was disappearing. And then, funny thing happened. I thought, well, if that's healing, that's all new skin. It's all white skin. It reminds me of that passage in the Bible where it says, your sins are crimson, but you'll be white as snow. Well, the skin that was coming in was like laser white paper white. It was just white, and it was all new skin cells, and it really just, wow, that just really just got my attention. I thought, if this thing is healing, it might take a while, but I'm going to keep doing it. So as I kept juicing and stuff, I started noticing that my cells were getting filled, but I wasn't as hungry as I used to be. And because of that, I was actually feeling full. And for the first time, I remember I was eating dinner at home. I had some salmon, some broccoli. I might have had some rice or potatoes. I don't remember. It's been a long time, but I couldn't finish it. And I ended up putting Reynolds wrap around it, putting it back in the refrigerator, which is something that never happens because I'm pretty good at eating. I love food. Um, if you can't tell, uh, I, I love everything, but I could not finish that, and I thought something's going on. So, long story short, those plantars warts went away within about 3 weeks. They were completely gone. There was no scarring. There was no nothing. You couldn't even tell anything even happened there, which is wild. So this is the freaky part. And I'll just tell this to you because, I've written about it, but you never really heard me talk about it before, and I think that's gonna kind of blow your mind a little bit. I went back to go find that juice shop in Manhattan, and it was about a good month after I first saw it. And I took the train down to 42nd Street. I got up at Grand Central and I walked across the Garment District, and I went through, you know, Broadway and made my way down towards Chelsea. I found the shop, but the shop was closed, and I couldn't believe it. So I walked over across the street, and I noticed that the shop had been closed for a long time. That's what it looked like because the door jambs were all caked in dirt and they were just dirty. It's like I hadn't been lived in for a long time. The shop is vacant, and it looked like there was nobody in it for a long time. The sign was gone. I could see the counter, the juice counter where it was. That's all gone. And it's an interesting story because maybe I went to the wrong place. I could have went to the wrong address, but I'm pretty confident I went to the right place. And there was no sign that there's people in there ever. Now, this kind of story now kind of it slips into a supernatural territory, and I'm thinking about Sid Roth. It's supernatural. This definitely fits in that category. So I was like blown away that this could happen. Very blown away, and humbled and grateful that I stayed the course of being faithful and had true belief that I'd be healed. And it happened to me. And I'm thankful and I'm grateful because I was touched by a universal supernatural power that healed me. And I thought to myself, wow, if I could go through that experience, what else could I do? What else is possible? And not to get comfortable with just that one miracle, but what if I could do that for other things in other areas? And it really got me thinking. So I've been in a state of gratefulness ever since. And this is probably the first time I actually told the full story of this when I was on video. Now it's funny, I'm going to just mention something that my grandmother, my mother's mother, so my grandmother Lillian sent me this little plaque. I wish I still had it. It was a little wooden picture of a guy walking on the beach all by himself. And it said something like, always remember that I am with you. I believe that's what it said, you know, and that kind of talks visually about the footsteps in the sand when God, the whole the whole story about when the person goes to heaven and says, God, I noticed that there was two sets of footprints in the sand. And then at the most troubled part of my life, there was only one pair of footsteps. And where did you go? And God says, that's when I carried you. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know if my grandmother meant that in the picture, but she gave me that picture. And I had it in my room for years, all through high school. And one day I moved, and to this day, I don't even know what happened to it. But I remember that specifically. But isn't it funny that when I prayed to God, I walked on the same ocean, I walked on the beach, I was talking to him directly, just like in that picture? That's interesting. Kind of ties together. And there's action steps in here. I listened to my heart. I prayed. I thought about what it would be like to get healed. I took action. I did it, and I'm walking in that reality instead of saying, "Well, I gotta do whatever the doctor says. I gotta let him cut my heel off, and then I gotta go take this, and I gotta get crutches and get a new foot." And I didn't do any of that stuff, but people do. Some people like to live in victim mentality, and I was not going to do that. So praise God. That's wild stuff, man. I think that's always stay humble, always stay grateful. I listened, it worked, and that is my story. Now, what was the juice formula? I'll tell you. It was green apples, raw beet, just a portion of raw beet, not the leaves, because that'll take out your vocal cords for about an hour. Unless you want to do that to somebody, that's a very cruel joke. Might come handy around Thanksgiving Day squabbles, you know what I mean? But green apples, a little bit of raw beet, fresh parsley, I'll tell you why in a minute, and celery and carrots. So, great combination. 5 things. Okay. Now, the parsley is interesting because that's pure chlorophyll. And what I understand is that pure chlorophyll can get into your bloodstream. It can go right to the tumor, bring fresh oxygen supply, and then break up all of the crud that needs to come out. And that fresh oxygen through that chlorophyll is the only thing that can actually break up the tumor, is what I read. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to dispense medical advice, but I do find that very fascinating. Probably one of the most important things you can actually juice is parsley. The old joke from the juice man, Jay Corder, he always says, when you get a plate of food at your local diner, they always put parsley on your plate as a decorative thing. He says, send the food back and keep the parsley. It's the most nutritious thing on the whole plate. So, ba-dum-bum, there you go. And that's the formula. Now, I think I talked about the backlash a little bit for my coworkers. God bless them wherever they are. We're all here to learn for whatever reason. And we're all here to learn from each other and to better ourselves and to better each other and make this place a better world. I believe that. I believe there's good, there's a lot of good here. I also believe there's a lot of rotten stuff here too. Living in this conflictive world is a challenge. But to see the good in everyone, to try to strive for that, and also hold on to your universal truths, to enforce a positive wall around yourself, especially now, because we're constantly surrounded by negative forces, either in advertising, the music we listen to. I can't even tell you all the stuff that I used to listen to, but I did a lot of damage to myself. I'll tell you that for sure. I know I did. And also the negative comments that I've acquired, because I was always the new kid. We must have moved like 20 times. And then in college, I moved more. And I had unbelievable number of jobs just to get through life. And you got to pick up a lot of negativity from people. A lot of, when you're always a new person, you get it, a lot of it. And if you internalize it, you're doomed. If you shrug it off, that's what you have to do. Keep working on yourself. Keep working on your character. Keep working on what you internalize and what you don't take in. We should have a conversation about Dr. Maltz. Oh, what was his name? Maxwell Maltz or Maltz Maxwell? I think it was Dr. Maltz, who did psycho-cybernetics. That's in my library. I haven't read it in a while, but we got to be careful what we take in as truth. And we have to hold on to the actual real truth. And then miracles happen, good things happen. The impossible, the supernatural, that's the stuff that makes life living worth, just like the whole thing is just so worthwhile when you got things flowing in the right direction. And when that happens, we all need to give thanks. And that's the theme of the show. And that's my time. And I'm going to go. And I want to thank you for listening. And what do we got here? We got some, looks like we got some Queen. Oh, there we go. So, one vision. I want to wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. I want to thank you for watching the special edition of The Win. And the best of the best. I wish the best of the best for you and your family. Until next time, I am Ted Cantu. And if I can do it, you can too. And I'll tell you what, you got problems. We're going to, like we always say on the show, we're going to knock them out, right? We're going to knock them out like this, together. That's what we're going to do. That's what the show's all about. I want to thank you for watching. And until next time, I'll see you online.